Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com. Today I want to talk to you about working and never despairing. Edmund Burke had a great quote. It was, "Work, work, work, and never despair. But if you do, work on in despair." This used to be a mentality. Of course, he was back in 1700s. This used to be a mentality that people held to. And I'll tell you something. As studying for a book I'm writing on work right now, and studying some of these people a few hundred years ago in the United States and in other countries, a pattern develops that while it looks like they were working so hard and so much labor is going into just surviving each day, because this is something that people are so far removed from today. Even the extremely poor today have it so easy compared to the way people lived back then. And yet, those people back then with so much work to do just to survive, hand making clothes. You know, the woman in the household back then, she cooked, she cleaned, she made the clothes, she kept the house, and that's a full-time job. It's not like today where you could just throw food in the microwave or have takeout food, have a maid or have a robot vacuum your house for you, and just watch television all day. There was real work going on. And to survive took a lot of work. Where today, it doesn't take much work at all to survive. And that's a good thing. That's a blessing. I'm not discouraging people and saying, oh, you gotta hand make your clothes. But there was a lot more work going on back then. And yet, in today's mentality, people think that'd make them more miserable. Oh, it's so hard, work and life is just so tough. But they were happier. You read these accounts of people and they were happy. They were overjoyed with life. They were blessed in everything they were doing. They saw work as an ennobling endeavor and they were blessed to be able to do it. And so that's where quotes like this came in, where people had the mentality that even if there was some despair, you keep working because work was not something just to do. It ennobled you. It made life better. It was a blessing, not a curse. And yet here we are in 2021 going into 2022, and people are talking about the great resignation. All these people resigning from their jobs and just sitting around because during the lockdowns and stuff, they got accustomed to doing nothing and not working or working from home, and they don't want to go back. And they'd rather just have an indolent life than to have a productive life working. Now, some of this is good because some of these jobs that people were doing were not jobs that anyone should be doing at all. There's AI, there's robotics, there's things that could take those jobs, and a human being doesn't need to be doing it. It's not ethical for a employer to employ somebody doing something that doesn't need to be done. That's charity, that's not employment. And it's not even real charity because it is dishonoring to that person's time. It's wasting their time. If you want to do charity, just give them the money. Don't employ them to do frivolous tasks that don't need to be done and work that doesn't need to be done, or that there's already a cheaper, easier way to have it done by automation or something like that. So that's a good thing when people are quitting those kind of jobs and going on to better endeavors. But that's not what's happening. They are quitting some of those kind of jobs, but they're going on to do nothing. They're going on to consume more social media, get more panicked by the news, and watch more superhero movies and play more video games and listen to more filthy music and just all this worldly nonsense that in the end doesn't bring any more joy. It certainly doesn't bring any happiness. And it actually works against both of those goals of having joy and happiness and makes their lives even worse. Because they've neglected this one thing that from the very beginning of the creation was a good thing, and it was work. God created man. He didn't create him to sit around all day, name a few animals, and that's all he had to do. He was there to keep the garden. He had an important task to complete. It gave his life purpose. Viktor Frankl wrote a great book, Man's Search for Meaning, that detailed this, that without that meaning in life, without having a purpose, a reason to do and to exist, your life does not have that same joy and happiness and peace that it could have. So I want to encourage you, even if you're going to work and you're saying, I am despairing about my work, I want you to think about this quote. Work, 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 and never despair. But if you do, work on in despair. This is not so you can be miserable or whatever, but to change your mentality. See work as the blessing that it is. I get people sometimes who want coaching and they'll tell me about how miserable their job is making them or how miserable work makes them. They just want to sit around and play video games or read or whatever. Even some of the things they may want to do might be valid, but they'll never get to that point. They'll never be able to eat the fruit of their labor because they don't put labor in the proper context of seeing it as a blessing, seeing it as doing it unto God, doing it unto the Lord, and being blessed in that endeavor. When you look at it, you're getting up and going to work every day, doing something you don't want to do. You're miserable about it. And I'm not saying every single second of your work day needs to be a party. Of course not. But if it's making you miserable, it's putting you in despair, the thing is your attitude is wrong. And you can know this because I guarantee you, if there's a place you work at, or if it's a business, maybe you're an entrepreneur, it's your own business, but I guarantee you can find someone else doing that same work who is overjoyed in their work, and they're happy, and they're joyful, and they're living their abundant life. And if that's the case, then it shows you plainly that it's not the work that's the problem. It's your mentality. It's your attitude. It's your vibrational state that you're operating in. You're in this despair. You're in this doom and gloom, this misery over work. That's a product of your own mentality. It's not the work itself. There are people who are digging ditches, which is very laborious work, and they're happy. They're whistling. They're doing that proverbial whistling while they work. And yet there's people who have high-paying jobs that are very easy and take little to no work, and they're miserable every day. Then there's people who are also doing the ditch digging who are miserable. And yet you have two men doing the same work, and one's miserable and one's overjoyed. And you have people doing very little work and getting paid a premium for it, and they're miserable, showing that the work has never been the issue. If you're miserable in your work, you're miserable in your entrepreneurial endeavors or whatever it may be, your business, you are the root issue. That's not to say the work's perfect, and maybe there's a lot of problems in your business or in the job you work at. That could certainly be the case. But are you actively, daily taking action to change that workplace, change your business if that's the problem? If there are these problems that keep coming up each and every day, what have you done to change them today? What have you done to start working towards getting those problems resolved completely? Because many people, their resolution is to complain, to whine to other employees, to whine to their coworkers, to maybe go complain to the boss about somebody else. Or if it's their own business, they get online, they talk to other people who are in the same field, and they complain about their customers or their clients. My friend, you have to have this mentality that work is a blessing, work is ennobling. It's not something to be put off. It's not something to be shunned. It's not something to be miserable over. It's not something to despair about. My friend, take up that attitude, that vibration of seeing work as a blessing, seeing it as being ennobling, and seeing yourself doing your work unto the Lord. And when you do that, you will start to have the joy of the Lord well up in your heart. You will start to feel good about work each and every day. And you'll start to see that it's truly a blessing. My friend, I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.